seeks justice within the system for these people that he is brutalizing, to use I think a fair term here, right? Whereas Frank Castle, on the other hand, he rejects the system, he rejects the norms and the virtues and of the system, and seeks to exact justice, complete and final justice, on his own, which Batman does not do. Batman never breaks his rules, where the rules that he has set forth to himself in service of the system.
Okay. All right. Then to casual. This thing you talked about before about like breaking your moral codes to do something good. At the end of it, you become a different person at the end of it than like who you were at the start, and kind of like dealing with that corruption. Would you think that not? Would you think that would not apply to us adopting illiberal tactics, that we now become a party that is willing to use illiberal tactics for our ends?
I understand where he's coming from in terms of like illiberal forces in the world. I think that comes down to the fact that they aren't like their final goal isn't something like inherently liberal. I brought up like the Decembrists and like the Russian Revolution, and this is my go-to thing like all the time, because in terms of like breaking down who's who in that whole like movement to do a universally like good thing, which is to overthrow like a dictatorial czar, there was a lot of like common interest in doing that, and then it quickly broke down from there. I look at like the social revolutionaries, who were like an oppositional socialist force in that country, who like genuinely believed in democracy, who are the main opposition to the Bolsheviks, who are more popular than the Bolsheviks. But they they operated in good faith and just strictly were going to work within the system that was set up, even as the Bolsheviks kept changing rules every day and eventually forced them out of any institutional power, and then just eventually started like killing them all. Like, that's the position I think you might find yourself in if you just, even if you have like a good, just goal, such as liberal democracy, you might put yourself in the position where you're letting yourself come out of institutional power, and then those people who used your generosity are like lifting the ladder up behind you. Because I can tell you right now, it's a the only reason why people are even like remotely worried about Fed posting right now is because we don't have any like federal policing power or any military power. I think this kind of speech would have been fine under Biden, and would be fine under like a potential Newsom presidency. But like with with Grok powered like AI tools combing
Grok
over our
powered.
Discord data, like yeah, it's like a really scary time to be a liberal at all. And we
Mhm.
have reason to believe that like if they got another term, if they had another shot at this, uh, not under like a narcissist, instead they have like an ideologically committed person, I think they would just say fuck it and like go for it.
Mhm.
And that's the stakes. Like we
Okay.
can't really like parse out how we go about getting back power and then using that power once we get it. Like
All
we
right.
have to just do both. We have to get it and then use it. Use it.
Sounds good. We're gonna go back into the open discussion, but I will say, I don't really see Batman as like an anti-hero, but yeah, it is quite kind of funny to like think about. Like, yeah, he is it okay if you have like your own set of rules or some shit to like break the administration? Like, if I have my own set of like, it's like the fucking Dexter. Dexter? Oh, is that the guy that kills
Tonight's the
people?
night. It's
Yes, yeah, that
happening.
shit. Doo, doo, doo. Like, if you have your own set of rules, is it okay to just break the fucking system or whatever the fuck? But yeah, we'll go back into open discussion for 10 more minutes.
So just real quick there, because I was actually typing this out in the side chat. The reason that I say that Batman is acting in service of the system is because of where he wants the ultimate outcomes of this justice to be executed, right? So he turns like Spider-Man, right? Like we wouldn't call Spider-Man an anti-hero, right? They both turn their criminals over to the system so that they can be like judicially tried and imprisoned like by the state. So I think that where somebody like Dexter or the Punisher, they believe that the system is so broken that the system cannot administer justice. Therefore, they must take it upon themselves to administer justice outside the system.
Anyways, open discussion. Go for it, casual.
Yeah, I just think that like I I've been listening to some more of like the Ezra Klein stuff, like Ezra Klein bringing on the two people who like know this administration's culture like inside and out. Um, your vibes that you have about like how they come to decisions are exactly right. Whoever listening, like they don't think for a second about like what the liberal response will be. They would not be discussing the SAVE Act if they like were caring about Democrats having institutional power again. 2028 is going to be a really scary moment. And like again, I'm not asking for you to break moral codes like while we're out of power, because like honestly, the whole like vigilantism, like it can put an image into your head that's just like not what this conversation requires. Like, we're not asking if you're going to be Batman. You're going to be asking, like, what kind of police commissioner are you going to be? Are you going to be James Gordon, who's going to be working with the Jacks? Like, I would say Jack Smith is more Batman. And like we're asking, like, who are we going to put into the position of police commissioner to work with Batman? The people who are really driven to get justice for all the wrongs this administration has done. Are we going to have Commissioner Gordon, who like you said, he gets the criminals handed over to him? He's like, all right, they're going in Arkham for the rest of their lives, no matter, like, you know. Or are they gonna be the one before him that like usually happens in like all the stories where it's always someone different, but like the commissioner who like, I'm not gonna work with the Batman, he's a vigilante, how could we, you know, he's undermining the rule of law and all of our values that we share. It's like you justice, like we just need to affect the outcome that we all want. And like if it means like letting Jack Smith loose in 2021 instead of in 2023, like, yes, do that. And in fact, this should be day fucking one. You have a person who tried to like orchestrate the insurrection, like running free, meeting with world leaders out of Mar-a-Lago, meeting with congressional leaders out of Mar-a-Lago.
Let's see Moto's response to that.
Yeah.
So here, I have a question for you. By that same logic, by that same logic, would Frank Castle also be justified in this? Like in his action?
Bro, Frank Castle's the guy at Butler, and I don't. If our guys on our team are not even hitting their shots, we don't have a Frank Castle. Okay, like, you know, let's just be real about this. No, I don't think even bringing in the Punisher is like a good use of this. Like, he is like archetypally an anti-hero in the Marvel world because they don't like do criminal justice like conversations at all in whatever stories they tell. But like if we were to strictly like stick within like what we mean, not exactly what words we're using, but like, and the examples we're bringing up, but what we mean, it's just like it's a little frustrating right now to deal with people who are like erecting walls around us when the current moment is like we're not doing enough. And then all the conversation is like, well, here's some more walls for us to like, you know, we can't go past this red line. Otherwise, we're no better than MAGA. I never want to hear that phrase again, that we're no better than
I have
MAGA.
a question.
Because
I have a follow-up here. So let's get away from like the Batman analogies here and ask. I'm sure you're a smart dude, so I'm pretty sure you understand the difference between rule of law and rule by law, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the where the rubber meets the road between these two things, right? This is where we find the spirit of the law. Okay. And when we talk about rule by law and the reason why rule by law is so bad isn't because there aren't rules, isn't because the rules aren't defined. It's because the people in charge get to decide what the rule says. Like, even if by the letter of the law, by the text of the law, it's perfectly like reasonable and justified to do this thing, doesn't mean that it's a morally good thing or an action that we should engage in. This is why rule by law is bad. And what you're advocating for is exactly that. We don't like that Trump says these things, so we're going to imprison him for. And when I say stop, hold on. This is just me trying to get to the point of what I'm saying, right? Because this will be the counterpoint that you just don't like Trump politically, so you're going to use whatever laws you can to imprison him for that reason, right? And eventually, if we lean into this narrative, we end up buying into our own fucking cope. Right. This is why revolutionary leaders like Che Guevara, or like whether you want to talk about Lenin or Stalin or like all of these other people, right? Like that's why they don't like abdicate their power or their leadership after, because this idea that this, you know, person who's going to break the rules in order to save the system is going to just give control back over to the system once they've understood the power that their action has. It's fantastical, and that's why it doesn't happen in the real world.
Okay. Except it does happen in the real world. Like I know we're like scared of like democracy advocates like saying when they say that the ends justify the means, but like genuinely when democracy advocates do get power, not in every case, but like in most of the time they do like create like liberal democracies where they go. I mean you'd probably have to go to like the post-Soviet sphere in Eastern Europe to like really get this, but like essentially like military governments have become liberal democracies in our lifetimes. Like
No, but that's because but that's not because of the like revolutionaries or whatever that like sought to overthrow another corrupt system, right? These are a rejection of that behavior after the regimes that these revolutionaries have created have collapsed under the weight of the impracticality of their own worldview, right? Like the
to
reason
be
that we
clear,
have
by the time we're getting around to like we're not going to litigate history because we need to focus on like the principles of this, but
Mhm.
like by the time you're getting around to the 90s, none of those people were revolutionaries. Okay, those were just like the new set of elites that got ushered in under the revolution. But like besides that, okay,
Well,
we
but
could
what I'm talking about is like when you see like liberal democracies popping up across South America, this isn't because the socialist revolutionaries and the communist revolutionaries like overthrew some oppressive regime and then allowed power back into the system, right? It's because they overthrew a regime, became the regime, and then because they couldn't fucking rule it, they collapsed. And liberal democracies came in to fill that void as a better alternative to the constant cycle of everything that came before. Right? It's a rejection of that worldview, not a continuation of that worldview. And what
look.
you're arguing for is that the continuation of that worldview is what builds liberal democracies. And that's just not how anything has worked in human history.
I'll be very clear. I think the Trump admin and the courts are like slowly eroding our systems to the point where we are like not a liberal democracy under the Trump administration. Okay. So, in terms of like giving the president presidential immunity, putting him above the law, in terms of like our Congress being like absent by design because the RNC won't fund their reelection campaigns if they betray Trump in any way, like this is not how our system of government was meant to operate in. And like Hutch is right in that advocating that we need like some structural reforms, but like you can't get about those structural reforms without getting like a breaking point of political power and
Right.
getting
But
and you're not going to get that electorally because we're so structurally disadvantaged
what do you
electorally.
wait? What do you mean that we won't get there electorally? Like
Yes,
we're
no, you
seeing
will not.
we just saw the election of the or we're in the process of seeing the election of the first Democratic governor of Texas in over 40 fucking years,
That's
right?
Wait, that's too much
Spanberger
opium for me. To be
Spanberger winning in Virginia on her platform is fucking insane, right? This idea that like that we can't solve that we can't still solve this electorally is in my mind still just throwing the baby out with the
for every
bathwater here.
Virginia
I'll
you're
let
going to
you
get, you're going to
respond.
get a Tennessee where we're still not able to win statewide races there. You're still going to get like the way the Senate works, and you need to get like 66 people in the Senate like that
Mhm.
are Democrats. You just can't get that under our current system, and that means no constitutional amendments, which means you're going to have to do something extra. You're going to have to do something more to like really get at these fundamental pillars of American democracy and renovate them. And that does mean you're going to have to do like more than just get an electoral mandate because you're never going to get the
All
kind that you
right.
need to like reform the system.
That is time. All right. We're moving into open Q&A. Any people in chat wish to get their voice heard? Come, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I know Techno was in here. He had some things to
True.
say.
I will say, as people are coming up, I'll give my position, or just like to ground this out a little bit, and then like an example or some shit. Hmm. Moto, you hit on this of we have like the letter of the law and like the letter of the law, or like sorry, the spirit of the law and the letter of the law. I'm fully on board with like, hey, doing the correct procedures and all that shit. Of like, hey, they broke this law, like let's lock them up for this shit or whatever the fuck. But like, for me, it's like after seeing the Trump, like what he's done to our system and our democracy and all that shit, I'm cool with like doing the letter of the law. I think it's like the case that if you go like 1 mile of an hour over the speed limit, a cop could pull you over and give you a ticket for that. But like no one fucking does that. I think like if we don't hit them, if they do some weird like slippery type shit where like they get around any type of like what's the word, like enforcement or any kind of retribution for like the shit that they did, like the consequences of their actions,
Mhm.
if they're able to avoid that, I'm totally cool with like going like by the letter of the law and just like, hey, you fucked up like right here or some shit.
So I have a
Which
question. I have a
go
follow-up
for it.
then. So do you think that the DOJ seeking to prosecute fucking oh god, which one of it? It's like 3 or 4 of them now. Seeking charges against people for mortgage fraud is an engagement in liberal values or the liberal system?
No.
Why?
Or like, sorry, the one case I'm thinking of is like she actually didn't do anything wrong. You're like the one congressperson or some shit they were trying to hit her on
Mhm.
with what was it? Her second home or some shit, and it was like tax evasion, but like it was completely false.
Yeah. Let's say that was technically true. Let's say that was technically true. Would you agree with the DOJ there?
No, I think this administration is doing illiberal things.
No. On this specific instance, would you agree with the DOJ seeking like maximal prosecution for this person for this reason, given the holistic everything else? Just one thing changing is that it's technically true that they misfiled a form that was technically mortgage fraud.
Then
By
yeah,
the
they
way,
broke
that
the. I
got
mean,
thrown out by a jury because that
yeah,
wasn't technically true. Like
well,
I don't think
yeah,
that
they
No,
broke the
I
law.
works quite
that's
well.
what a hypothetical is, right? So
Yeah,
like, but so you would agree with the DOJ and you would support the DOJ pursuing those charges.
I'd say supporters are strong, but like yeah, they broke the law. There's not much like shit happens. Like you can't do that.
Do you think that is do you think that is a similar thing or the same thing as Merrick Garland prosecuting Trump for January 6th? I mean, obviously not, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay. So what I'm getting at is what the destiny position here seems to be is arguing to prosecute people for mortgage fraud because we can't get them on the insurrection, right?
If
It's the reason why like you know what Al Capone was imprisoned for, right?
yeah, what is it called? Fucking, it's the you're like
Racketeering, I think.
racketeering, that word. Yeah, yeah.
Rico.
Well, it was
Rico. Oh, Rico.
well,
Something like
it was
that.
tax evasion was their in,
It
right?
was
Yeah, yeah,
tax
yeah.
evasion. Yeah,
Tax
That's
evasion was the tax evasion was the end, right? What you're arguing for is, and I would probably disagree. Like if Rico didn't like become a thing because of Al Capone and all of these things, right? What you're arguing is to Al Capone, Democrat or Republicans, right? Where we're taking the tiny, this would be ruled by law, right? Yes,
Yeah.
you drove 1
Letter of
mile
the
an
law.
hour over the speed limit.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna lock you up and pursue maximal charges here, because I don't have a case in this other thing that I don't like that you did.
Yeah, it's like if we can't, like I can't see why not, but like with the point that we're at with this with our democracy and shit, if we can't like get them on something like 100% secure or some shit, I'm cool with just like being like, okay, letter of the law, this is not okay.
Well, I don't think that's a virtuous position to have. That's
I don't think
to
so
me.
either. But like
I,
we
Yeah,
are so
but if we
far
want to
I
be,
past
don't
but if
that.
we're
think
gonna be,
like it's
if we're gonna be,
virtuous. Oh, I'll let you
Can,
go.
sorry,
can,
no.
can I
Techno
Almost.
came up. Sorry,
Yeah,
Techno came up
almost.
to ask a question. I'm sorry.
We'll start with
can I
almost.
can I also like okay, so I've been like trying to get in this discussion a little bit. I sat in like the Hutch Discord for like 2 hours trying to talk to him, then I pieced out because I was too long.
Oh yeah, same.
So I have some notes now that I
Go for it.
took about this. So I feel like there's a few different levels that people are operating on.
Mhm.
One is
100%.
like you're blackpilled. I don't want to be blackpilled anymore. How am I going to stop being blackpilled? By being a bad guy. Hell yeah, I get it, like I think Trump's a fucking horrible person. You too, and I think he deserves to rot in hell, but can always get what we want. It seems like that's one of the driving factors, it's feel like it's not really pragmatic, it's kind of wishful thinking. Then we have one that's like, are we trying to effectuate the best system we can have? And how are we going to do that? Are we trying to like go through some like virtue ethics, or trying to be like utilitarian with this? Like, how are we trying to, I think, monitor ourselves to get this outcome? Because it sounds like some people kind of just want to do these things because they think it's what they think justice is, which I get, and I also think it's what justice is, but it's not always the most pragmatic solution.
What's your stance?
I'm probably mostly with Hutch, although I think Hutch is a little bit naive, honestly.
Same.
So let me put it that way, because I hear him talking, and like he said something that struck me before. It was like, oh yeah, Trump can't do anything. It's like, no, he's actually doing a lot, even though he could do a lot more.
Mhm.
Like, it's actually very scary how fast we're accelerating downhill.
Yeah,
Uh,
100%.
Look
but
at
like
the
pragmatically,
2025 website. We're 53% of the way there for what
Yep.
their plan was.
So,
Like,
I have a question for you almost. Do you agree with Hutch when he says that, or when he predicts that if the 26 midterms get fucked with, that it would lead to the largest mass protest movement in American history? Do you think that he's like kind of spot on there, or do you think that's naive?
I can't pretend to watch the future. I mean, we had the president try to steal the election last thing, and like no one gave a fuck. So
Well, no,
Bro.
honestly, I have no clue.
prospectively.
Holy
No,
shit.
prospectively. So
That's unreal.
if I were to say, hey, if Trump were to fuck with the 2026 election, we would see a protest movement that would make the civil rights movement look like a picnic, right? Would you agree with that statement?
Honestly, I just have no clue. I feel like there's a lot of apathy. I think that Americans are really shitty at protesting. We're not the French. I
Mhm.
feel like
True.
United States.
Wait,
I think,
hold on.
okay.
I want to
Wait,
pause
let
you
me
right
finish real
there.
fast. Let me finish right fast.
Yeah,
Wait, finish. Okay.
Go for it.
I think the unfortunate truth is America's democracy has been a pretty steady spot for a while. We've had issues. I think Trump is honestly probably the worst issue we've had since at least probably going back to Andrew Jackson, honestly, from what I could read and like, everything I could read up on. I don't think there's been a president that's been this bad. I think America has no cultural memory of how to handle these issues. I think
Yeah.
we're almost semi-depoliticized because it's been so easy to have a stable democracy for us for so long.
Yeah.
And like if you look at Korea, South Korea, for all their issues, for all them being basically a corporate-run democracy, their democracy is pretty strong because they remember what it's like to be under dictatorship. The
Mhm.
second you had someone trying to coup the government, there was a massive protest. The legislators were literally protesting and breaking into buildings to go, effectuate some change. I feel like in America, we just have a habit of sitting our hands. And honestly, I don't really have any faith in the American population to take it seriously unless there's a reason that it is made serious for them.
Okay.
I mean, I
Actually-
would push back with that, with just what we've been seeing in Minnesota since Preddy and Good were murdered.
True. Okay, Meadow, we'll give a sec. We'll just go through people's takes. Techno, what is your take? Why are you up here?
Hey, so Hutch, the Hutch, sorry, Moto. Firstly, I don't want to get into this. Maybe we can have a conversation this amongst ourselves another time. I think there's actually some logical inconsistency in your position about Batman, and yet your support of like generally Hutch's position of being like incredibly pro process. These are completely unaligned in my eyes, and I would need you to like manage to make these coalesce because in my eyes they can't. But I actually don't want to focus on those particularly. I want to focus on some more like broad and general ideas. Firstly, I agree with you. I do agree. Like I am like probably somewhere in between Hutch and Destiny, and that process matters. The process by which you come to a conclusion is far more important than any conclusion you ever come to. And
Yeah.
importantly, we're talking about, do we need to abandon liberal processes to accomplish the end goal that we're seeking? And that is a very dangerous conversation to have in general. So there are two things that I would like to focus on. First of all is a very simplistic conversation that I really don't understand why, like we talk in really broad, general, esoteric terms, and generally Destiny's really good at bringing it back to like really concrete conversations, and I haven't seen him like bring it back to a really concrete conversation that he's kind of touched on that I think is really important. So I'm going to analogize it. The administration is a child, all right? If you are you a parent by the chance, Moto?
Yeah, actually.
Okay. So your child, if you were to walk into the kitchen, your child were reaching their hand into the cookie jar, what would you do? Right? Like it's 5 minutes to dinner
Well,
and you see them trying to steal a cookie out of the cookie jar.
Well, I mean, I would punish him for stealing a cookie out of the cookie jar. I wouldn't see him stealing the
Precisely.
cookie out of the
So
cookie jar and then punish him for not
but
cleaning his room.
and so, like, importantly though, bad behavior need be punished. That's the main thing I was trying to establish. Let's not jump too far ahead. All right. So I acknowledge that like the bad behavior is pre-existing. So then the question becomes, if there is pre-existing bad behavior, and we know there is pre-existing bad behavior, and we didn't do anything about it, what are the expected results? We would expect them to continue that bad behavior. And I even wrote this note. This is the exact thing I wrote. You just mentioned it. Given we failed to do what should have been done, what do we do now? As a parent, if your child started to, as a teenager, exhibit bad behavior because when they were younger, you never managed to punish them for reaching their hand to the cookie jar, so they thought they perpetually reach their hand to the cookie jar. Now that it's 10 years later and they're 16, what do you do as a parent? Because at the end of the day, you have to desist bad behavior. This is the tit for
True.
tat that Destiny always talks about. Bad behavior needs to be punished to desist it. So if we
True.
didn't get ahead of it when we should have, and I agree we didn't, what do we do now that we're behind it
Okay.
if we can't do so in an illiberal manner?
Sure. Let
Go for
me ask a follow-up. Let me ask a follow-up there. Do you agree that when Destiny says that we get these guys on whatever we can, right? Do you think that when he says that, he is entertaining the possibility of bringing charges against them that might not necessarily be related to the reasons why we would be interested in pursuing justice?
Yes.
Like, for example, that's okay. You understand that's an illiberal
I get
position,
exactly what
right?
you're I get exactly what you're getting at. Like, yeah, not
Mhm.
yes, technically, but again, we're behind the issue. So the point would be, if I needed to assist bad behavior, we're not dealing with children, we're dealing with adults. These
Mhm.
adults would be able to understand, hey, I can't punish you for having reached into the cookie jar, but I am going to punish you because now that you didn't reach your hand into the cookie jar, and now because of that, you don't renew your tabs on time. I'm going to punish you for not renewing your tabs then. And at the end of the day, I'm actually punishing you for reaching your hand into the cookie jar.
No, but we
That's
can
what I would
punish
be saying.
them. We can punish them. Just because we don't punish them immediately doesn't mean we can't punish them, right? I don't know if I
A
don't know
statute of
anywhere in the
limitations
Constitution.
sometimes that is not the
I
case for
don't
the
know
record.
anywhere. I don't know anywhere in the Constitution that gives a statute of limitations for insurrection charges. I'm sorry, right? So like this idea that because we didn't get him then, we have to get him on something different now in order to correct that mistake is ludicrous. I think that's ludicrous.
I've been kind of quiet here.
Go for
I
it.
don't because nothing's been addressed to me.
True.
I would say that like the biggest thing that you need to like get over is like I guess the American like predisposition to like cult like worship of like freedom of speech, like in absolutely every and freedom of the press, absolutely. There's
If
limits
I
to
can just reclaim
those
my time
freedoms,
real
I
quick,
think.
King, because I actually think this totally ties into my second point. The second note that I had is that we were talking specifically about the Fox News, right? Like
Mhm.
maybe they haven't technically committed a crime, but I would hope in this chat agree they have done an egregious wrong one way or another against our democracy. Maybe not technically a crime. And then the question becomes, it is my First Amendment right to lie. Should it be? If I can knowingly prove you lied about an election for gain, should that be legal? If it shouldn't be legal, and it currently is, and technically by our liberal constitution, we cannot like charge somebody for a crime that they committed before it was a crime. Do
1
we
minute.
just let them off the hook for that?
So you're assuming here that we're only talking about the criminal world here, right? Like there are other like legal avenues to hold people accountable for a behavior that's not necessarily criminal, right? That's why Fox News had to pay all that fucking money to
I
Dominion,
understand. I would
right?
argue at this point that
So
But it fell
civilly
short
nowhere
of what we
near.
needed
They
at the
have
moment.
well,
they have
unfortunately,
been
they did
civilly
not
held
commit a
liable.
crime. They did not commit a crime in that way, right?
No,
Well, I
They
just have
might.
to address the
but like
question. And do you
beyond the
think that we
crime, like
should
you'd
let
say
them
they
off the hook
yeah.
Do you know
for
why
any
we don't
sort of
have?
criminal liability to them?
Do you know why we don't have retroactive application of new law?
Yes, I
Not
do.
retro.
I do. And I understand that in a fully functional system, that there's a very good reason we have that. I would argue we don't have a fully functional system currently. So the
So for you,
question
the
again
system is
is,
already broken. Let's throw the baby
10
out with the bathwater. And every liberal virtue we have is on the
No, I would
chopping block
actually
if it
argue
means
that
To be
getting
clear,
the
we're
end,
just
getting
throwing
rid of
Fox
MAGA.
News out
Okay.
with the bathwater. Like, I don't
Yeah,
think
I
that's
would say I'm
No,
too
no, because
obscure
by
to
extension,
law.
that
I'm choosing
argument
to apply
applies
it.
to everyone. That applies to News Nation. It applies to Alex Jones. It applies to CNN if they start saying things we don't like. It
I'll
applies
stop
to
you when
Stephen
there's
time.
Colbert.
a force in
Mhm.
this country that I don't
That
like. I
is
wouldn't mind.
time. Thank you all for coming up. We'll be starting our next topic. I'm sure I'll grab some of you for the next topic. Boom, boom, boom. Honestly, oh gosh. I'll just move everyone to audience. Pull people up for this next topic. How did you feel about that, Sophie? Where do you stand? Are you a hopium or an anti-hero?
Ah, that's a tough one because, like, I'm already hanging on by a thread. Like you guys are like, oh, if you did that, it'd be the biggest protest of civil rights. And I'm like, okay, but y'all know, like, civil rights protests weren't the thing that actually got us, civil rights. Like, it was doing things, honestly, that we would probably consider like Fed posting today. And like, even with the whole Fed posting thing, like I'm at a place where it's like, I don't know. I feel like I'm getting, even just personally, I'm getting woke scolded away from, offering what may be a productive solution, because everybody's so fucking scared of, it being a Fed post, so like
Mhm.
like I literally had someone DM me and tell me that because I say in my YouTube description something along the lines of like the American experiment has failed, they're like,
Mhm.
that's Fed post. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
No,
Like
that's
just
crazy.
get the so and it's almost always it's just really young kids, who they're trying their best, but I think we're in a place where we're fucking cowards now. We're fucking like so scared of what anybody on the right's going to do to us if we step over the line. It's just sad cuz like everybody on the left, everybody in this chat so far, everybody who's commented today is so full of intelligence and wisdom and empathy and compassion, and I hear you guys trying to say where's the line and how do we ascertain this and what's fair. None of those
Mhm.
conversations are happening on the right. None of
True.
those conversations are happening with our opposition. And I think naming them as our fucking enemies and our opposition, that's not fucking Fed posting. That is being fucking real. And I think that's where
Mm.
I get a little frustrated because I'm very much on the anti-hero side of it, clearly, if you haven't noticed. But I just feel
Yeah.
like we're I don't think we're being bold enough. I was watching the State of the Union and I don't know, like it just pissed me off. Like at least in the first one last year, Al Green was censured, like he,
Mhm.
even that was some bullshit, but like at least it was something, like what did we get this
True.
time? What did we get? We got some walkouts, okay, at least they weren't wearing pink this time, and we got the signs again, okay. But and so somebody in the comments was like, "Oh, what do you expect them to do? Go rush the stage?" I'm like, "Sure, fucking anything, something."
Mhm.
Like if I were a fucking senator and I was in that room, you wouldn't be able to shut me up. You'd have to drag my ass out of there. You would literally and they're like, "Oh, but do you really want to take the focus away?" He was digging a hole for himself. What the fuck are you talking about? He's the fucking president of the fucking United States. So it's
True.
like, I'm, excuse me, I'm clearly getting a little heated about it, but I just swear to God,
No, you're
like,
fine.
we're
No,
just not
100%.
doing,
Like
yeah.
fucking the whole digging is our fucking country. Okay, it gets a little bit
Thank
different
you.
when people's lives are at stake.
Thank you,
But
casual.
I forgot to do the closing statement. So we'll start with casual.
Go
for a
ahead,
minute 30.
sorry.
Is this the new topic or?
No. Sorry. The closing for the last topic. I forgot about it.
Okay.
He's a bad host.
No.
So bad.
Okay,
Sure.
I think the most offensive thing that I heard Hutch say, and I think that like you could actually get up in arms about this, is like saying that like we are on the verge of like a new civil rights movement where it's like people are waking up to this, people know how wrong this is, and like the people in the civil rights movement should be like venerated and respected for their patience, like, and going all the way back to like the 1920s to, I know the people he's talking about, Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, like these people who, you know, knew they weren't going to get civil rights in their lifetime, but they were going to work at this anyways. And it's like, brother, they were alive to see the erosion of their rights, and they were alive to see like Republicans who like promised them like freedom and justice sell that away for an election in 1877. They got to live through that. And it's like, I'm not gonna, I feel like I said this like broadly. I feel like we're in a way better spot. Like people know what's right and wrong these days. We have like the popular consensus of this. So how are we going to let like institutional power, which doesn't always reflect like popular will, not even in the United States, why are we going to let that like get away from us? Why are we going to let them change the paradigm to now where we have to like, you know, sell out trans people's rights, sell out gay rights, like you know, and just sell out our means to even affect politics into the future. Like the only, like, we are this close to like the Supreme Court go. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, no, finish your sentence. The Supreme Court, go for it.
We're this close to the Supreme Court selling out like the Civil Rights Act and like letting Republicans like district themselves into a majority for the rest of time in both chambers of Congress. It's fucking ridiculous.
A note on that before fucking Moto. Holy shit, the scariest thing for me was hearing the president say how the Supreme Court has been influenced by foreign countries. What the actual fuck? But yeah, go ahead, Moto.
I think that at the end of the day, one of the reasons why I am not quite towards the Destiny position yet is because there are other things that we still have at our disposal. There are other things that could be done, right? We're not at the burn the house down step yet. And even Hutch himself has conceded and agreed that if things continue to deteriorate in this manner, right, then those things could be necessary. And I agree with him on that. I just don't think we're there yet because what we saw in Minnesota is giving me hope. What we've seen against the ICE protests, the No Kings stuff, right, has me very hopeful that should Trump do even worse than he's already done and mess with the elections, that the American people will say no. This is too far. This is not okay. And I don't think that the Democrats need to force this issue because it'll become self-apparent. MAGA is imploding, and the American people, they will show the American people at some point exactly why they should have never been elected in the first place. And to be clear, if you're arguing for illiberal solutions to all of these problems, then you're not aligned with liberalism.
It's time. All right. Thank you for our lovely headlining debaters. We're moving on to the next topic. It is, one second. Stop stream. Which matters more in a politician? Governing competence, merit, or electoral viability? This came up when I was talking to Sophie. If someone's interested or have a take on this, raise your hand. We'll get you in here. But this came up when I was talking to Sophie about it and stuff. We're talking about the 2024 election, and we were both feeling like, did fucking Kamala lose because she was like a black woman? Is this like this what the country's come to? And I thought that was an interesting dynamic of like, what matters more, like the merits of a person or how like electoral viable they are. Any casual does have an opinion. And Sophie, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I do. I thank you so much for including this topic.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me that you took what because we were just kind of chatting about it. I was like, oh, it'd be great if we, because there's the whole thing of what's his name? He was on Colbert. What's his name?
Oh, the one.
Travelo.
James
Democrat?
Tallarico.
Tallarico.
Tallarico,
Yes, there's
Yeah,
this
yeah.
whole.
the future governor of Texas.
Well,
True.
the thing
We'll
is,
see.
I feel like, Jasmine Crockett has been out here for years, being an absolute thorn in Donald Trump's side. One of the biggest voices, just shitting on him. I think we all like look at Gavin Newsom and what he's doing. I feel like, Jasmine Crockett was walking so that Gavin Newsom could run.
True.
And so it's kind of like, then suddenly here comes the quote unquote more electable James Tallarico, the Christian white man, the son of Texas, whatever the fuck. And it literally is such a fucking slap in the face to see all of a sudden, we have hope now that we will actually win this thing because we have an electable candidate. The whole issue with Kamala is that she really just wasn't electable. And it's kind of like, okay, I probably said this before, so forgive me if I'm beating a dead horse, but because the fucking right is so goddamn racist and so bigoted, I hate that it gives people on the left this fucking pass to completely ignore their own implicit biases, their own assimilationist rhetoric. It's absolutely insane to me. So like, even previously when you were talking about, hi, I'm sorry, even previously when you were talking about, like Frederick Douglass, like you were kind of going back to like the slavery era stuff. When I think of civil rights, I'm so sorry. I think more like Gloria Richardson. I think like Malcolm X. I'm thinking more, in the timeline where my parents were little kids, So it's kind of like, okay, we did have this whole effort to gain equal rights for Black people in America. And then after that was achieved, we then still had to fight to get affirmative action, and then that was taken away. We had to fight to get, like the law schools to take seriously that critical race theory and implicit institutional and systemic racism was a real thing, and to teach that into the legal system. Then CRT was attacked, and then DEI programs were attacked. And now, they're literally trying not to teach, Black history in schools. And so it's this whole thing where, they police were killing indiscriminately Black people. Black women were being sterilized in California up until like 1986 or some kind of craziness. So our women's rights for Black women were being attacked. And it's like, okay, now suddenly, because it's white people getting killed by law enforcement. Oh, it's such a big deal. It's such a big issue. Oh, now suddenly white people's, abortion rights and bodily autonomy and women's rights are being attacked. Oh my gosh, it's such a big deal. And it's kind of like, I feel like every single Black person is literally like, yeah, okay, we've been like the fucking canaries in the coal mine this whole time. Were you not paying attention at all? Like the fucking rage is enraging. So it's nuts to me. So again, just to literally bring it home, sorry about that, let me land the plane. I'm just saying, when it comes down to the utter disrespect of, again, suddenly we got a great white hope where, we had a Black woman poised and ready to kind of be that face for Texas. It's a slap in the fucking face. And then my last point is just that, Kamala Harris did lose. She did lose. Of course, we won't know why. We won't fully know why. But I think, of course, also we kind of do know why. It's kind of like, okay, if it was because she was deemed unelectable, don't we want to look at this time frame as that period after a plane crash where it's so much safer to fly? You know, don't we want to look at this time period as the calm after the storm? So Kamala lost, okay, but isn't this now the time to start really supporting our Black female leadership, especially in the Democratic Party? Because like literally, I think they want to go against the rhetoric that she lost because she was a Black woman. Okay, yeah, then let's keep putting up Black women. Let's keep supporting them because there's no reason.
Yeah.
There's no
Let's do
reason
that.
not to. So that's kind of my final point.
So
So baby can
Casual, what's your take?
go on mute.
yeah, I appreciate like that perspective, and I guess I understand this topic like fully now. When I bring this conversation up, because I feel like I'm one of the most vocal people on this server for like the Talrico chuds like getting their way in the primary, and it looks like I'm not even going to be proven right in the end. I go off of like just I go off of like the hope, the revival of like this blue dog Democrat that can go into a deeply red state like Texas that just culturally isn't in step with like where the Democratic base is and like turn something around, that we really have like no other shot to do so. When I say that like Jasmine Crockett might not be as electable, I think of like, well, where do I know her from? I know her as like kind of like a rage bait for Republicans and like short form media content. Like I think of like the mechanics of like how we win this election, which is to deflate Republican turnout and increase Democratic turnout. And I think a really easy way to do this with like the modern Republican voter, who I'm just gonna like I don't like the deeply red Republican voter, okay? I think they would genuinely be confused if they saw two like really white names like on the ballot and they didn't know who to go for, or if they took like one look at the candidates and they're like, wait, Talrica's a Democrat? Like, I think that while that like scares, like that gives us a little bit of anxiety. I know some people are concerned about Talrico being like a secret Fetterman or something like that. We're really traumatized of having someone like that. I actually think it does the opposite on the Republican side of the aisle, and like those voters who might still come out and vote for a Republican this election, and you know, if they do, like we are locked out of the Senate, which is really consequential. Like I would like them to be just a bit more confused. Like at least they don't have the the paint the Lowe's paint chart to like tell them who to vote for. They're like, and when I say that like when I say that like Kamala Harris wasn't electable on like just owing to like what that election was and like the culture war nonsense that is pushed by like institutions, not even like necessarily like interpersonally, like with Fox News and Newsmax and all this stuff. Like as long as those biases are there, I'd rather just not play into them. Like, and playing into them is as simple as just like putting forward the qualified candidate that Kamala Harris was. And I just like, I don't think we had a lot of options, but I still would have like wanted to explore like some other alternatives. And I think now during this primary, like that is the time to just say like who, at least in a state like Texas, like who would be the one to flip this? I'd have the same conversation in Montana, in Kansas, in Nebraska, but you bet your ass in like New York City, if it like, you know, it's Zoran this time, but if like we had like this super qualified, like awesome person pushing the envelope, I don't care what fucking race they are, because I know that's our home turf, and I know that we can probably push someone over the line regardless. I also know we're not the majority in like Texas, and that it would be an uphill battle. So
Let's get
that's just
Moto's
where I
take.
stand.
Yeah, let's get Moto's take, and then we can do like an open discussion. Moto, how do you feel?
I think that when we talk about electability, right? I mean, obviously the most surface level, like the level 1 thing is like, can we get enough popular support for this person, right? But I think it goes a little bit further than that, and we should ask, why should we get popular support for this person? I think that governing ability, about merit, should be the metric, and for me is the metric, because electability is in 99% of cases to me just a messaging issue and a messaging problem, right? Because if you take this to the logical extreme and you're only focusing on electability, clearly what the Democrats should be doing is pushing the like a far more like socialist, like left candidate to get all the tankies to vote for them, because they know that the base is going to vote for whoever they put in front of them just because MAGA is so bad, right? So through a purely getting somebody elected terms, right? Somebody like Graham Plattner should be a more appealing candidate to the Democratic Party than somebody like Kamala Harris, right? But I think that's completely backwards. Because just because somebody might be popular, this is why populism is bad. Just because somebody is popular doesn't mean they'll be good at running the country or running a constituency or running an area. And what we should be focusing on in our in getting people with merit, people with actual governing ability elected, right? We make them electable through the messaging, right? Because the once we get somebody elected, we have to see past that moment, right? Because Trump is the most electable fucking person on the like in the whole country, right? Well, not right now maybe, but like both in 2016 and in 2020, he was the most electable person. But we see how that's turned out. Electability can't be our metric.
Anyway, I'll give.
Yeah.
Here's,
Is this
I
just
wanna throw
open
this-
discussion?
Yeah. I want
Yeah.
to throw this to the panel though, because I think this is like what I came down to. That I didn't know how to answer for myself. It's like it's not really so much for me like seeing our internal biases and stuff. It's just kind of this thing of like, if you know that like the moderate is like somewhat racist or some shit, or doesn't like gay people or whatever the fuck, is it better to like play into those like stereotypes to get someone elected, or should you try to go for someone that's like more merit based? You know what I mean? It's like I don't hold that value, but I know that like these moderates do. Should I like try to appeal that, or just say no, whoever is the most like has the most merits, and say fuck it?
I fully relate to the rightful fear that like we only started caring once like white people started getting executed in the streets. Like I
True.
really sympathize with that. I would just also like come at this from like the other angle of, if that's what like the fact is that like that might like our country might be one where like that was the tipping point, and then like we just have to acknowledge that reality and operate within that and like negotiate with that reality, not in the way that we can like fruitfully change it, but just like we have to negotiate with that reality in elections to like get candidates that are gonna best be in our interest. And that doesn't mean like voting for the person that will only skin you alive instead of the person who will gut you like a fish. It means that like there is substantial differences between like the Democrats and the Republicans, and we need to put in a Democratic coalition. Moto like questioned like, well, is this person gonna run the constituency the best way? That's not how you think about like congressional elections. And the Texas case, I had to explain this to a Canadian friend. Like, just structurally in the Senate, we don't really have like, we almost have to play exclusively to like Republican like lens, especially when they're so strong in the culture right now, because they've set up the system in a way where we can't actually like win on our platform. We do need to like push to the right, at least in the Senate, because that's what the Senate is. It's the more right-wing body in this country, and we need to put people in there that can play by those rules. Like the Senate's there to, when we get a president in 2028, to approve all their court appointments. That's the place where we get our cabinet. That's the place where we can have like the budget get held up for like months, and potentially have shutdowns. And all that matters because when we get in charge, we need to like run the ship perfectly and then have maximal political outcomes. And we can't do that when we have a Joe Manchin holding us up, or Fetterman's not going to be like able to be primaried until fucking 2028, which is convenient. But if we fail, that's fucked.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think you said a lot here, but I think the one thing that I want to dig down to is, a quick question for you. Why do we elect people
to represent
Why-
us.
to represent us? Like how?
As closely as they like they're in the two-party system, it's as best as we can get. And that's
Okay, let me
just
instead of asking the question, let me just come out and say it. We elect people to run our governments, right, and to run our systems, and we choose what I mean. Principally, we choose who we think would do the best job at doing that, right?
well,
The
now you
meme is
sound
that
like the illiberal. No, they work within like a governing coalition. Like there's a bunch of different interests, and
no,
the summary of those interests in the ruling party will like come
no,
to the
but
surface. Like, yeah,
fundamentally, the function, right, of electing leaders is so the leaders can execute the will of the people that they purport to represent, right? Like this isn't just a popularity contest. People didn't vote for Trump because I mean, if I'm taking most voters in good faith, they didn't vote for Trump simply because Trump was cool and based and said funny things. They legitimately, for one reason or another, thought that he would be better at running the country, running the government, right? They thought he was a better administrator of their will, right? This is why we choose who we elect. The problem comes is when you get populists, right, that'll come in and they'll lie, they'll oversimplify, they'll do all of these things because it makes them more electable, it makes them more popular, but these things that they're running on and arguing for are actually really bad, or in a lot of cases can be really bad for the people that they are representing. Do you disagree with that?
yeah, but like a feature of American democracy in particular is that like we have to elect like one of two options at the end of like 4 years, 6 years,
I'm
2 years. And MAGA has sped up politics so fast that like I genuinely don't think you can like legitimately have an election where you're holding someone accountable for this position on this bill. It really just comes down to like are they taking the country in a broad direction that I want to go in?
So, okay, let
Yeah,
me
does that
ask you
make
this.
sense?
Your
Yeah.
perfect candidate, what is your grading sheet for what the perfect Democratic candidate would be?
Do they have a D next to their name, and are they going to vote with the coalition?
Okay, so if they vote with the coalition, right? If they're willing to vote with the coalition, and they have a D next to their name, right? You would be in favor of them saying
They've
whatever the
passed
fuck they
all the
want.
merit tests that I've set out for them, which I don't think merit.
Okay.
I don't think merit doesn't matter, but I do think it. I think like I have a very low bar, which is why I say it's like less important than electability. Because the other thing that's really fucking important is that why are you
No,
going to
because
elect
you're
someone in
depending
your
on somebody
primary
else
who
to do the
can't win the
work.
election?
Well, the thing is you're depending on somebody else to do the work, right? So, like, when you say when they
Also,
vote with the coalition, what you're saying is that they'll vote with leadership.
yeah,
That's
because
what you're
we've put,
saying there.
and that's why leadership's super
So you're
important
not
because
electing.
leadership is like
So you aren't electing somebody to represent constituencies. You're representing somebody to pad the numbers, right? And I think this is fundamentally the wrong way to go about choosing who to elect in a position, right? Like
that's
the
the
reason we vote
Constitution, bro.
Democrat, no, but we're voting Democrat because right now we broadly believe that Democrats would do a better job at running the country. We elect
Yeah.
people because of their merit, because of what they can do, because of what outcomes we think that they can achieve.
Yeah.
Not
I
just
can short
because they're
circuit this
popular.
really, or I can short circuit this very easily here. Do you think that like Schumer himself has like plotted out like the policy platform, like Project 2029, once we get back into power?
Not entirely, no.
No.
But has he thought
And
about it? Does
also,
he have a game plan? Absolutely.
okay, but also, is that just Schumer, or is it like the broader party apparatus? Is that all the staffers that are around him that are like becoming like politicos on these issues of foreign policy, economic, like the affordability crisis, like everything we do in DGG, this digital ground game, like our research team doing their work on the issues, like trying to find like the right messaging to strike when we go canvassing, like this is like the Democratic Party, and it's not just like the plurality of all the different elected officials that we've gathered in one place. It's a big tent coalition of all these different interests and skill sets that we're bringing together to like, and we're running this whole coagulation of people together. And which is why I'm like, you know,
So if
can we?
Hassan ran as a Democrat, you'd vote for him.
No, Hassan has some like qualifiers that I think like make him
No, I
unable to
asked
work.
you, do
No,
you think
yeah,
if
on my
Hassan
merits,
ran as a
no,
Democrat,
because I don't think he would go with the coalition whatsoever. No, and I
how
don't
do you
even
know
think you
that?
can.
How
I
do you
don't
know
think
that at the point of the election?
from
Next
his own
at the
from his own
Hassan.
acts, like he does have some. Yeah, he does like he does have some qualities about him that I think it's like impossible to work with him in like any legislative process. Thank God we don't have to discuss this. Like, he's not running for any office because he knows
Let's get
this.
Sophie. Let's get your input on this. Or like, what do you think of the question I posed to the panel?
I think she
Hello?
might be doing something right now.
Damn. Oh. Sure. It was like, okay, we might not hold these like positions or some shit, but is it good to like appeal to the moderate voter to get elected, or is it more important to like go on the merits? Mm-hmm. 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 Oh damn.
Casual, I have a question for you. Just to calibrate, this is not a gotcha or anything. Who is like your like number one like Democrat candidate right now?
Right now, I think okay, there's like it's really hard because there's like three, and it's just because I'm doing some like midterm out like the midterms project stuff.
Mhm.
I think if we had more resources for this year, I would love to put some more behind Alexander Vindman in Florida, who's just running on like a strict affordability and then accountability like duo there, running on his military bona fides, running on like
Mhm.
a sort of principled thing. And it doesn't hurt that he's like not really like under ethnic attack right now by this administration. I'll just say that. All right.
Yes.
I think that like someone who literally hasn't followed the news at all and like is racist could see his name on the ballot and go like, oh yeah, that like sounds like some guy to go for, you know, because like I said, I don't have the highest opinion of the median voter. I also really fucking like Graham Plattner and all the like. I think his fireside chats are not as cringe as people make them out to be. I don't really hear the. I think people are listening too much for like the dog whistle about like Democratic criticism. I think there is some things to criticize the Democrats for, and I do like that he's taking away the monopoly that Republicans have to like whisper sweet nothings in the ear of like the white man, the young white man that we need to win back in order to like have electoral power in this country.
So
Moto,
Yeah.
I'll give you that
so
response,
my
and then we have a new guy. Go ahead.
yeah. So my follow up here would be, Hutch's like kind of like I think really good question to ask people is if you could go back in time and convince FDR not to coalition with segregationists, but that means that we don't get the New Deal. I think we could look at a modification of that here, and that is that if FDR didn't appeal to segregationists when he was running for office, right, and it means he doesn't get elected, right? Should we still run FDR? If running somebody else would still get us New Deal policies. And I think the answer is clear, right? Like it's really funny that you actually bring up Graham Plattner, because Graham Plattner is like kind of the perfect example of what I'm talking about.
So
Where we have
different.
we have a broad base. We have a broad base of Democrats. Or just I'm gonna land the plane real quick, and then we can get on to the next caller. But um, uh, broadly, the Democratic base is going to vote for whoever the Democratic candidate is, right? Regardless of merit. I kind of agree with you here, right? Regardless of like the merit, regardless of anything. If they have a fucking D, if Jeffrey Epstein's reanimated corpse has a D next to his
Or
name,
who?
it's a different question. But what I'm getting at here is the logical extension of this is, okay, if there's a candidate that the lefties will vote for that is arguably worse for governance, right, but is more electable, then we should run the lefty candidate instead of the one that will actually do a good job, right? That's what you're arguing for, right? You are arguing for picking candidates based primarily on whether or not they are electable, and not whether or not they would do a good job. And the electability is a messaging problem. That's why socialists never get fucking elected anywhere. Not because their ideas are bad, but because they're really bad at communicating them. And the purity tests don't allow them any diversity to actually achieve any electoral outcomes.
I think we
Let's
disagree
get-
about what the lefty problem is, but I'll just answer. I would absolutely I would elect the FDR, because it doesn't matter if you win the presidency by all 50 states, or by just enough to get the electoral college done. I would say that like once you get the presidential power, you like run a candidate who guarantees that you'll cash in on that. There's different considerations for like a president, and then like one of 100 senators you're electing to the Congress. Yeah, sorry.
Let's get the new caller's input on this, and then we'll probably wrap things up. Techno.
I'm actually going to be kind of tangential. So if we don't want me to do it, go ahead and say I'm doing two things at once. So I'm actually kind of piggybacking off of what Sophie was talking about. And I want to make sure that I understood what you said, because I'm doing only half paying attention here. You were essentially saying that we made a mistake as the Democratic Party when we attempted to appeal to conservatives, and we were kind of ignoring our left flank, right?
Not necessarily. I'm saying that that's what people are saying was the issue. Like that seems to be the messaging when people are like, "Oh, why did we lose?" It's because we were trying to appeal to the right too much. So that's not necessarily why I feel Kamala lost, but you know, I'm more straightforward. I think she lost because she's a black woman, but I was just not attacking, but I was just trying to steel man the argument that seems to be the reasoning that's given for why she lost. But no, continue your thought. I'm curious as to what that triggered for you.
Okay. For anybody that would have that position, I would I think phrasing is important. And if you're maybe you don't want to speak for somebody who would have that mindset, but maybe somebody that had that mindset would use the same language. That you were talking then about like we failed. Somebody who would hold that position would say we failed to appeal. We failed with Kamala because we were trying to appeal more toward conservatives and ignoring our left flank. but they would talk about the left flank and they would just say socialist. And this is like a really broad and general term that's going to constitute a lot of people. And I would argue some people that would actually be illiberal and are not our ally. And we would be talking that the failure was we're appealing to conservatives, but at the end of the day, we're appealing to conservative liberals. I don't think Kamala made a mistake in doing that at all. At the end of the day, if what we want is a constitutional democratic republic, that should be the unifying identity. And that is the idea of being able to reach across the aisle. That is the ideal of the more perfect union. There are going to be disagreements, but there should be a strong, unifying, underlying idea that all of us are on the same team on, and appealing to the conservatives that are on that team when the ruling aspect of that team is definitely not a part of our team. I don't think that's a mistake at all. And that was that's really
Yeah.
all that.
No, I would agree with you there for sure. I mean, but again, that kind of speaks to what I was saying about trying to speak to the people under our tent already. And that's where, you know, I agree with you. I think that that includes that sort of center left or even the centrist, or the undecided, you know, like that's fine. But it's just when we're trying to peel off the people on the right who, you know, who are anti-trans and who, you know, don't like DEI and whatever, and we're trying to cater to those people, that's where I think we're making a mistake. But again, I'm with you. I don't necessarily think that that is what happened. Because again, like with the whole trans thing, even like that, Kamala didn't say shit about that. But that was just the straw man, if you will, that the right, you know, created around us that they were then able to poke holes at. So, you know, I hear you loud and clear. And I think we're on the same page with what you're saying.
All right. I'm going to wrap it there for tonight.
Yeah,
We can
fair.
move it to general if people want to continue on the discussion. Honestly, I feel like, dude, we could have just stayed on that first topic because people just loved it. But yeah. Everyone have a good night. Don't.
Nope.
Hopefully, we don't get drafted into no war with Iran. But yeah. I'll be ending it there.
Thank you so much, Retro. Well done, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, thank you.
Good job, Motto. Oh, I didn't say it. Yeah. Sorry. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you're on YouTube and Kick, yeah, we'll be doing it every Saturday. So thank you for tuning in. I'm gonna stop the stream. Have a good night.